Welcome to this second video of the Carpool series called Innovation Adventure with the cheap Grand Cherokee, and it's super excited because it's a beautiful day here in St. Gallen, and I'm so excited that we have this beautiful sunroof to let in the sun and drive around this neighborhood in St. Gallen. Secondly, I just found out on the way here to St. Gallen that when you're driving on the highway, you can use this great feature called Lane Sense, and it kind of like keeps you in the lane, and even if you're like drifting off a little bit, which I think makes it much safer car, it will keep you safe on the highway. But today I'm super excited to talk about innovation, education with Roy. Roy, welcome to this special innovation adventure. Maybe to start off, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
So thanks first for the invitation and this really special trip here. And yeah, about myself, I'm working, as you already mentioned, in the education area for more than 8 years, originally coming from the financing sector. But what really keeps me on going in the education and motivates me to work there is I have the opportunity to, one side, help participants, students, other side, and we'll come probably later on that point, also companies, how to get ready for all the challenges that are lying ahead of us.
Right.
And yeah, and this is really what's going on. Mainly, I dedicate myself on areas or topics of what should education be in the future, or better said, how should it be today in order to be ready for the future?
Yes.
And nevertheless, how can also digitalization support us on this way to get there?
Sure. So you have a very you work you're part of CYP. I was super impressed when I first visited their offices and I heard about them and like got to meet like a lot of the management and staff people when they introduced me. But maybe you can give my audience a little bit of a background what CYP is and what exactly makes you different to other education institutions.
Okay. So CYP originally founded in 2003 by the Swiss Banking Association. And we are also an association or a non-profit organization, and we are the center of competence in banking, basic banking education, both for apprentice and for adults. So we have roughly about 5,700 students every year, or you could say 1,700 days of courses and classes per year. We are acting all over Switzerland, so we have 13 different classrooms, and what really makes us special is the way what is our understanding of education of today. So we focus more on the level that if you do come to classroom, you do not expect having theory presentations, but you do more concentrate on how to use the knowledge that you learn. So probably there are still other education institutes that follow the strategy that you have to learn the theory within the classroom, whereas our approach is the theory, you learn it more or less by yourself with different instruments. Before the class, instruments might be, you do have videos, you have ebooks, you have some kind of gamification approaches, communities. But when you do come to our class, you are using this knowledge. So it's not about, let's make a repetition of what are the 5 main points of whatever. No, the thing is, and how can I use it now exactly? For example, in role-playing games or in simulations and so on. Also, the difference is, because of that, our teachers do not have the role model of standing in front and educating one to end, meaning one person having the knowledge and spreading it out to all the students, like perhaps some universities are still doing it. Our approach is that the teacher has more the role of a coach. So he's a sparring partner. His role is to enable the student using his knowledge and also connecting the different knowledge he already has and perform at his best.
So maybe you can give like some examples, like let's say what kind of classes or I don't know, study sessions you offer and how that connects to the real world after.
One example is, or what is really typical at CYP is, from one side, the student has to register himself for classes. So we are, on the platform, we are offering different courses, and he has to register himself. So it's not like in other education programs where we, at the beginning, know every day which classes you have to attend. This means that every class is mixed with other students, so you don't have to fix class. The advantage of this is, you have a class with students coming from different backgrounds, from different companies, banks, so sharing the knowledge And we are trying to not only to teach the basic banking skill, but also the competences that you need further on for working. I don't know if you already heard there's a model called 21st Century Skills, the 4C model.
Okay.
Some years ago in the United States, some companies realized that when students coming out from university, there's a gap between what they learned at university and how they finally can use it within the works by itself. So mainly companies like Intel, Apple, HP, Adobe sat together with different university and education institutes to define what are the gaps. And they come to the conclusion there are 4 C's, which means in future or already now, what you need are creativity, collaboration is a skill that is needed, the critical thinking, and communication skills. So this is all these skills that we also try to implement in our courses. For example, collaboration. We are convinced that more and more it's important that you are able to work not only in a project management team, but in a virtual project team. Meaning that your colleagues are not sitting in the same office, but worldwide. So how do you communicate in this virtual team? And this is what we also try to implement already now in the courses.
Cool.
It's not banking by itself, but it's an instrument that you afterwards need for surviving business life.
No, for sure. I mean, it's super interesting. Maybe you can give me some tips, because my team is spread around the world. And most of my team I never met in person. Some of them I did, but most of them I didn't. So maybe you can share like 1 or 2 tips. What is it like that makes successful global collaboration possible?
So I think because you do not see yourself physically, it's even more important that you have the rules how to work together and that everybody knows and sticks to it. Also, nowadays most people are talking about the new working style. And nevertheless, I think it's important, and this is also part of the rules, that you say every week, for example, on Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we do have a meeting and we give an update to ourselves. So this is 1 or 2 things that you really have to consider working in a virtual team.
Okay, cool. So let's move on a little bit about, like, let's say the innovation of education. I mean, like, you're also currently doing something at the University of St. Gallen, same place where I'm currently a master's student. And I'm super interested and intrigued to hear a little bit about the differences that you can experience now, let's say, between, let's say, the university, a very academic place, versus, let's say, CYP.
I think some main points are both institutes have the ideas of enabling the students or the participant, but it's more the question of how they are doing it. And my experience at university is more that one person, namely the professor, is standing in front with all the knowledge, and more or less the whole time you're just listening to him. I mean, there are exceptions, but most times you do not have some activities, exercises where you really can use the knowledge that you learned. So it makes more complicated afterwards in your working life to really use the knowledge and not just to remember it and write down the 5 key points, for example, that you had to learn for an exam. This is one part that we are doing differently at CYP. So more or less at the first day already starting using the knowledge that you have.
When you look at, let's say, what I like to talk about, let's say, especially because you have this expertise, is like, what do you see in companies, how they foster, let's say, continuous education once you even started working? Do they realize like that things are changing, and how are they implementing it into their workforce?
I think in the corporate world, there's a really big change at the moment going on. Well, for some company more, and from some that didn't realize it that much now. Till now, not. Nevertheless, there are some things that you have to consider in future. Is like, I as an employee, I want to learn when I need the knowledge. So it can't be that, for example, today I need something to know about accounting. I can't wait 2 months till the next internal course is about accounting. So how do I get the information by now? How do I get the support by now? Other things is also to foster more the learning between the different employees. So everybody has a knowledge, but it's more how to activate the people to share the knowledge. And these are topics that are at the moment going on. Besides that, all the new digitalization coming inside, like how to use virtual reality or augmented reality, also in the context of education within companies. But I think the biggest challenge behind all that is not the digitalization or the new way of learning, it's the change. On one side, the teacher, on the other side, the student or worker is used a certain way of learning and how to get the information or the learning and how class is.
Yeah.
And this is the challenge, how to change the mindset of all the stakeholders.
Me as a master's student, I'm a little bit a special case because after my bachelor's, I worked for 2 years, but I did feel, without like saying anything negative about the previous university, I did feel there was a big gap between like what I studied and like what I actually needed during my professional first 2 years. And do you think like this is a gap that like will be closed or will get bigger? Let's say the gap between academia and, let's say, the real world, quote unquote.
I think we are in a good way. This gap hopefully will be smaller and more closed.
Yeah.
You do already see it with all these online learning offers. They are really trying to use situations, examples that are happening now, bringing more the real world into the classroom or the virtual classroom in that case. I think it's still a way for, especially for university, to accepting that not everything is on the academic way, but also you have to bring out more the practice way. So unfortunately, time wasn't for you at the right time.
Yes.
But I'm very optimistic that we will have a change in that. But as I already said, it's nevertheless the change.
I mean, like maybe to wrap up this video, what is your hope, let's say, for education? Where would you like to see it, let's say, in 10, 15 years? Do you want, let's say, your own kids to be in school, or you want them homeschooled or internet schooled, or how do you see it, let's say, the best case scenario?
For me, the best case scenario is that education has the understanding that every student is special by itself.
Yeah.
So there's no mass education product in that case, said. So my idea would be that my kids, for example, if I have 2 kids, that they both don't have the same learning path.
Yeah.
So according to their strengths, to their interests, they have a different way. Education adapts to their needs and really analyzes what is their need in order to enable them to perform for them best.
Yeah.
So this is my hope and my dream of what education should be.
Okay, that sounds really interesting and optimistic, and I really hope that not only that, but also that education becomes available to, let's say, to make it a little bit cliche, but also to African countries around the world that maybe don't have like such a fantastic education system as we have here in Switzerland. Sure. So I think that's also like something that like will definitely help us with the digitalization, globalization, internet, and all of this together. I think it's really a bright future in education. Exactly. So Roy, thank you very, very much for taking the time in this carpool, and I think we're already at the destination where I have to drop you off. Thank you very much to Cheap for letting us use the Grand Cherokee. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon with a new Carpool series. And thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks for the invitation.